All right, guys, today on Keeping It Real, I am joined by the one and only Riley Gaines. She's a 12-time All-American swimmer, SEC champion, but more importantly now, she's an advocate for fairness and accountability in women's sports and far beyond. We're going to be breaking down the top stories in the news this week. News for normies. Here we go.
Keeping It Real with Jillian Michaels.
First of all, congratulations on your new little one. How's maternity leave?
Oh my gosh, maternity leave. It's so funny, like the concept of maternity leave in the line of work that both you and myself have found ourselves in at the current moment.
Right.
Everyone has told me motherhood is chaos. Those first few weeks, make sure you're banking up on sleep. But let me tell you, Jillian, I feel like these past few weeks, I have actually had time to breathe. This feels like the most time I have been at home consecutively in the past 3 years. But outside of that, look, being a mom to this beautiful, perfect little baby girl has just been the most fulfilling, amazing moment that I have found myself in. And watching your husband become a dad, that has been so beautiful. She's like a perfect baby. She doesn't cry. I have to wake her up at night to feed her. She's perfect. And we have had the best 3 weeks. She's 3 weeks old now. So it's been awesome.
Here's what's going to happen. She's going to sucker you into thinking this gig is easy. And then you're going to have a second one. And that one is going to be a terror. That's the running joke with my son. I'm like, if your sister, because my ex had my son, and of course we adopted our daughter, but they both came the exact same week, serendipitous, not on purpose. And the joke is, I'm like, if you had come first, there'd be one of you. One child.
And I'm a second child, so I fully understand. I am that terror that you're warning me of. That's me. So I get it.
Well, I'm about to unleash you on the top stories of the week. I'm going to interrupt this blissful state, but hopefully we can have a little fun with this because it's just so absurd. I now understand late night TV. I now get why comedians tell people the news, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So here we go. Okay, are you ready? This is what we're talking about. The ongoing government shutdown. USA Powerlifting has been accused of discrimination for not allowing a transgender woman to compete against biological women. I know you're shocked. New data shows that the trans trend is on the decline. The Ninth Circuit's ruling on deploying the National Guard in Portland. What does that mean? And then I thought we'd take a historical look back, since immigration has been one of the core issues that has people in an absolute uproar and an outrage. Where did the left historically stand on this? And I thought we'd go back and look at some of the stuff Obama said and Trump said and how many people they deported and all of that, just for fun. So first, here we go. Okay, the government has been shut down for over 3 weeks. I'm going to read all of this to you, and then you'll let us all know what you think of this.
Oh, gosh.
This is the second largest shutdown in American history, second only, by the way, to Trump's border wall funding. I didn't realize that. Did you know that?
No, I did not, which is interesting. Of course, this was back in 2018,
You're
2019,
spot on.
Which was before I was as involved in the political space as I am now. I will say I've always had the values that I do, but 2018, I was 18 years old. So I wasn't really keeping up with what was going on. And so as I'm now seeing what's going on in the news, looking at historically what this has meant, now this being the second longest shutdown, it's all making sense. I'll let you read this and I'll give you some of my thoughts on it.
Okay. So, well, what's interesting is that I was older than a teenager in 2018. And for some reason, I still wasn't paying attention. I just thought, okay, yeah, the government's going to shut down and nothing for me is going to change. I wasn't ever paying attention until now. And you're seeing the real havoc this is wrecking on everyday Americans. So here's what you've got. 900,000 federal employees have been sent home without pay. You've got 2 million who are still showing up for work, but they're not getting a paycheck. So these are people who protect our skies, TSA, right? Inspect our food, process benefits that essentially keep the country running for the rest of us. And they're now struggling to pay their rent, their mortgages. They're dipping into their savings. Some of them are struggling to cover their monthly utility bills. And you're seeing national parks close, right? So TSA is understaffed, research labs are dark, federal courts are furloughing employees, and this one's scary. Even the National Nuclear Security Administration has sent home 80% of their staff. Not done. Programs that help the vulnerable, like the Women and Children Food Assistance Program, the NIH medical research, all on hold. Okay, but Congress still getting their paychecks. Economists estimate that the shutdown is draining $7 to $15 billion from the economy every week, money that could be going to schools, hospitals, or small businesses. And 48% of Americans say they've already had it impact their communities. 1 in 5 say they're experiencing it themselves. 2 in 5 say they personally know somebody who's been impacted. Like, how does this make you feel when I read this to you? Is this partisan for you? I'm wondering, like, do you feel one side, or how does it make you feel?
Well, here's what I will say. Number one, in my personal life, maybe it's because I've been on maternity leave. I don't know. I will say typically I'm jet setting on a plane here and there and everywhere every other day, it seems like. So maybe I would notice some ramifications if I was living my life prior to giving birth to our beautiful daughter. But I will say in my day-to-day life, in terms of people I'm interacting with and the life that I'm living, I haven't noticed much of a difference.
Right.
But how this makes me feel in watching it in the position that I am, again, doing the line of work that we're doing, number one, this tells me that some people, given, again, the longest shutdown that we've had and now being where we are now, you have some people who hate Trump more than they love America and the people who reside in this country. I mean, what we're seeing, Jillian, is a total failure of leadership. And to be very clear, like, really, this is on both sides. People are sent to Washington, D.C. to serve the country, to serve you and me, taxpayers. But what they're doing is they're serving what seems like, based on what they're posting on social media and the very cringy like videos that their staffers are filming for them to put on TikTok, they're serving their own egos instead of the American people. And so we have seen a lack of accountability. I mean, again, I think you mentioned Congress is being paid, right? But they're not showing up for the people who pay their salaries. They're cashing a paycheck while the people like you and me are on the receiving end of this shutdown. Listening to some of those numbers you read, 2 million unpaid people, whether it is TSA, whatever the setting is, government setting is, who aren't being paid, but they're still expected to show up to their job because what will happen if they don't?
Right.
I mean, it's total chaos, again, that people like you and me have to be on the receiving end of.
You know, I feel terrible because I will say this, you're right, I don't personally experience it. And I never paid attention to how this is harming everyday average Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck. And at this point, it sort of transcends partisanship for me. And Trump has said, listen, I'll sit down, but you guys got to fund the government. But everybody's kind of holding this little piece of leverage and nothing's getting done except this guy. Take a look at what John Fetterman has to say about this.
All right, here we are, and our government remains closed. And I think that's failure. And I'm the guy that's going to consistently vote for country over party. I'm always going to vote for paying our military over the party. I'm always going to vote for paying the Capitol Police over my party. And I'm going to continue to fight for the 2 million Pennsylvanians that depend on SNAP to feed themselves. And I'm also going to fight for the same 400,000 Pennsylvanians that depend on those tax credits to make health insurance more affordable. Two things are true, and now we can fight for all of them as long as our government is open. My vote is going to remain firmly on keeping our government open, and I'm going to continue to fight for all of those Pennsylvanians that I'm honored to represent here.
When you see him say that, does that, like, for me, that transcends culture war issues. I want common sense. I want them to put people over party on both sides. And one last thing before I go to you on this is that new polling shows 75% of the country blames everybody. 75% blames everybody. I wonder if politicians would do better by just saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to do whatever it takes to open this up and go on record. What do you think?
Yeah, you want common sense, you want normalcy. So does the majority of American people. A couple things in listening to this. Number one, I'm hopeful, right? I feel hopeful, of course, to see a sane Democrat. Let's be very clear. John
Right?
Fetterman is the most sane Democrat in the country. I'm not even sure who is in second place behind him. Like by far, he is the most sane, certainly in Washington, D.C. So I feel hopeful in seeing that. But at the same time, it is so depressing that we feel as if we need to applaud someone for being sane, for saying, look, I'm going to put, policy over party. I'm going to put my country over party. Like, we're applauding that. People on the right, people on the left, again, take away the partisanship here. We are so excited to see someone say something like this. Another thing that's been refreshing in seeing Senator Fetterman, especially the past 24 hours, is how well he has been working with Senator McCormick. Pennsylvania is one of those states where they have a Democratic senator and a Republican senator, which probably isn't a shock given how purple this state is. But I have been so inspired and hopeful to see how well they are working together. I saw a video today. They're both standing there and they're both talking about how they are 100% going to keep voting for the government to stay open. There were only 3 Democrats, Jillian. I believe Senator Fetterman and the 2 Democratic senators from the state of Georgia, Ossoff and Warnock, who voted to keep the government open. And what we have seen on social media, again, how the Democrats specifically are trying to frame this on TikTok and to their base and to the constituents is that this is a Republican shutdown. I keep hearing it over and over and over again.
Too.
They say, look, the Republicans, they're in control of the House. They're in control of the Senate. They have the Oval Office. Look, they won the popular vote. This isn't our fault. Most people, myself included, prior to being involved in this space, you didn't know you needed this 60 vote cloture vote to ultimately reach this agreement to keep the government open. So to see Fetterman being willing to do the right thing, that's all it is, right? Like it's nothing overly profound. Granted, I believe, as George Orwell says, it is a revolutionary act to do the right thing, to say the truth, which is what Fetterman is doing here.
Yeah.
And whether it's this, he has been a staunch supporter of Israel, standing with them. He has been proud to say in the past that we need a secure border. He has said that it is entirely appropriate to bomb Iranian nuclear facilities.
Yeah.
So, look, he's just sane on some things. He
I
has
know.
historically voted to put men in women's sports, but that's a different topic.
I know, and we're going to get to that, actually, not him in particular. But you know what I love is that you're saying, listen, I have found some common ground with him. I applaud these things that he's doing. I don't agree with him on this, and we will fight about that when it is appropriate. But I would love to see more adults in the room looking for the things that we have in common instead of constantly going to the things that we don't. I think it is tearing us apart. It's driving me personally insane. And I'm seeing other people really become exhausted by all of the constant fighting when everyday Americans are suffering. Like, I think everybody would do better if we could look for more common ground, not less of it.
That's it. And you would imagine those issues, the 80-20 issues, right? I think that's ultimately where we start. Like men and women's sports, for example, like
Yes.
the border, for example. This is where, again, we know how the American people feel for the majority because we have the voting demographics from November of last year, not just for Donald Trump, but these important Senate races, these important congressional races. We see how people voted, the trend of people ultimately, regardless of demographic, Black, Asian, young, old, even women we're trending more conservative than what we have seen in the past. So we know how they feel about what you and I would call common sense issues. So what I would love to see, but what I have not yet seen, which I'm surprised by, I really thought we would, is seeing Democratic elected officials specifically recanting from their positions on some of the totally extreme, radical, crazy progressive policies that they have embraced and pushed for, I think, especially when it comes to parental rights, when it comes to the safeguarding of children. These are things that everyday Americans care about, but the Democrats, they've totally abandoned. And that's not to say that the Republicans, the Republican Party, especially those in those elected positions and powerful positions, are perfect. Certainly not. But if we're going to talk about common ground, I mean, you would have to imagine that we could find it on an issue like keeping men out of women's sports. But here we are.
Here we are. Well, you bring me to the next one. And just quickly, before I dig into that one with you, as a person who was formerly on the left, ironically, the vast majority of my positions haven't changed. The party has become so exceptionally radical, leaning into the things you're talking about: sex changes for kids, biological males and women's sports. I think socialism is up 36% for the Democrat Party. I mean, these are the things you're just, I like, what is happening? I really thought it would be that wake-up call and they would kind of come back to a more moderate stance. But instead, it's pushed them more into the kind of squad, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Mamdani, radical 20% of the issue. And now I can't even believe we're talking about this. I was shocked. This came up yesterday. So USA Powerlifting, apparently a Minnesota Supreme Court just ruled that they discriminated against a transgender athlete by not letting her compete in the women's division. So take a look at this clip. This is a gender justice director who is arguing for this apparently at the Supreme Court. And here's what I think forgive me, I actually don't know how this person identifies, has to say.
The court found USA Powerlifting liable for discrimination. In other words, that when it comes to discrimination, public accommodation, you cannot bar transgender women from women's sports teams. And that is a huge victory. We are so proud.
Okay. Power lifting.
Yeah.
Powerlift. So when you're at the gym and somebody leg presses 700 pounds and you're leg pressing 100 pounds, that's testosterone. There's no amount of training. When she says it is a huge victory, I'm going to hand it to you here. I'm confounded.
Yeah, of course, I mean, this is this issue is ultimately how I have found myself in the position and with the platform that I now have. I have pondered on, obviously, my own experience, these issues that we continue to see around the country, affecting all levels, by the way, like elementary school, middle school, high school, college, the amateur level, even the Olympic level. Like this, no one is immune to this issue. I've thought about the communication and the messaging of all of this. And when I listen to someone like that, I presume it's a woman who was just
Jess.
speaking. I mean,
the name is Jess. I took that away. Yeah. Or we get it wrong. Maybe. I don't know how the
person. And then we're
did.
like committing a hate crime.
Well, we've both been accused of that together, in fact.
Exactly.
So, same time.
I listened to this and I listened to this woman describe the exclusion. They use the word inclusion. Let's call it what it is. I listened to her describe the exclusion of women from women's sports as a huge and total victory. Who is winning here, right? They have dubbed this movement, right, the trans rights movement. Let's call it what it is in virtually every scenario. It is the men's rights movement. Because, again, I'm just using very plain language. I'm not saying what I'm saying to be hurtful or to be mean or to be disrespectful. I'm calling it as exactly how it is. We have seen men infiltrate into women's sports, infiltrate into women's prisons, infiltrate into women's domestic violence shelters. The list goes on, right? I don't have to keep going. Bathrooms, locker rooms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. What they are doing, they are violating women's rights, number one, to equal opportunity. Two, to safety. I think especially as it pertains, I mean, all of these scenarios, any intimate, vulnerable single-sex space such as a bathroom or a prison for that matter, these men are violating women's safety. They're violating their privacy, especially, again, in areas of undressing. It's the men's rights movement is what this is. And so to see this woman, which, ironic, is seemingly always liberal white women who are applauding the erasure of women, all while calling themselves a feminist. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around how they could see this as a total victory as this woman did.
Well, here's where this gets a little more crazy, actually. So listen to this. Okay. USA Powerlifting argued that allowing transgender women to compete in the women's division would put other women. So I think, by the way, historically, throughout history, people who were transgender had that transgender. It implies there is a difference. You would like me to address you as Sheila and your name was Sean. No problem. I actually don't care. Done. Consider it to live however you want to live. Do whatever you want with your body as an adult that can make informed decisions. But you cannot deny it's not other women. There's biological women and then there's trans women, and they are different. It is okay to acknowledge it. It is not a hate crime to acknowledge science. Now, they still said that, right? Trying to be accommodating. They go on to say, our goal at USAPL is to create rules and a framework that uphold the principles of fair play and not to exclude anyone. And in response to that, in an attempt to create a sport that doesn't exclude anyone, they created an open MX division, a mixed gender division in 2021 to serve all gender identities, including transgender and non-binary members. But that was not enough. The court said that the sports organization violated the Human Rights Act by, quote, making a person pretend to be someone different. So what about making all the female athletes pretend that there is no difference? You have no concern there? None? Zero. Long story short, see if you can make sense out of this one. Okay, so the court basically kicked it back down to a lower court, and they said that if they can come up with a legitimate business purpose defense, then maybe they could still win this case. And I could not for the life of me understand. So essentially, it's a loophole that says if you show fairness is your business model, you might win. You have to show fairness is not a safety issue. Like, you have to show it's a business model? Riley, what the hell is this? What is this and where is this going?
Well, it's so interesting because the beauty of sport is that fairness is the foundation. That's the beauty of sport, right? And I think it's important to mention that sports in general are inclusive by their true nature, right? Like, no one is excluded from playing sports. Anyone can play, regardless of religion, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of any identity factor, gay, straight, doesn't matter. You can play sports. There's a place for you to play sports. Unless I'm totally ill-informed, there's some total discriminatory law or rule out there that prevents people from playing sports, which there's not. Okay, so sports in their true nature are inclusive. What is exclusive, though, is competition. Like, right. In the word's definition, it's exclusive because you have a winner in competition. Not everyone is guaranteed to win. That's the beauty of sport. It lies in a foundation of fairness. Okay, so to say that their business model has to be fairness, it is like that right. Is what sports are about. Whatever. That's why we have like in boxing or any event where you're getting into a ring and fighting and there's weight classes. That's why we have the weight classes, because fairness matters. You don't have someone who's 280 pounds fighting someone who's 165 pounds. And why not? It's not because we're trying to fat shame the person who's 280 pounds. It's because we know who would be the winner if those two people got in a boxing ring. Okay. Same thing with, even age divisions. You have 18 and under and you have 12 and under. You don't have an 18-year-old playing on a peewee league. It's not because we're trying to be ageist. Is that even a thing? We're not trying to do that.
It is.
We're not trying to do that.
It is a thing. We'll be accused of it next.
We know who would be the winner or who would help contribute to a win if an 18-year-old was able to play with a 12-year-old. It's the same thing with having sex classes or categories on the basis of sex in sports. And one point to make really quickly about this whole creating a third category, a category for those who identify as trans or non-binary or those who are gender non-conforming. We have seen this time and time and time again, where number one, people propose this and then they do it. We saw it in swimming, actually, in my sport. At the highest level,
I didn't know
they
that.
created a third category, and Thomas, the person that from University of Pennsylvania, the man who I competed against, he went on to sue because he said, look, I don't want a third category. If I can't trample on women in the process, I don't want to play the sport at all.
Right.
So again, it goes to show here that these people, the other side, really aren't looking for compromise. And if I'm being honest with you, Jillian, on this issue, I'm not really either, because there is no compromise to be had when it's as simple as you are either a man or a woman. There is no compromise there because it's nothing opinionated. Like, it is merely biological reality. There is nothing to compromise when we're talking about what is real, what is true, what is objective, and what is not.
Real quickly before we move on, were you not like one of the greatest swimmers in the country? You were, correct? You were like incredible swimmer, correct?
Yes,
please toot your own horn.
Still one of the fastest Americans of all time, which is it's mind blowing to look back on my career and all of the accolades and achievements, and 5-time SEC champion, 12-time All-American, 2-time Olympic trial qualifier,
Okay.
SEC record holder, like all these awesome, incredible things that I will forever be proud of that have been just totally overshadowed by this issue that we have found ourselves talking about. And even still, like, one of the main pieces of criticism that I get, and actually, when we were on Piers Morgan not too long ago, there was a man who had a differing viewpoint to that of yours and mine, who said something to the effect of, you just weren't that good of a swimmer.
Right.
Which is totally misogynistic. I asked him to then name a woman who is. He says, well, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, you just don't know what you're talking about.
Right. And that's kind of what makes me sad as well. I love seeing you in this role, and you're so good at it, and it's clearly what the world needs from you at this time. You should be on a Wheaties box, dude.
Oh, please.
That's the part that kills me, is I think like this would have been a world without Serena Williams. This would have been a world without all of these incredible female athletes and heroes that young kids, boys and girls, have looked up to. And instead, you're fighting this fight, and I love you for it. But I just want to go back to, that's part of the problem, is that we are not getting these role models now for young girls for these reasons. And on that note, we're going to move on to something related. And I just want to touch on it because I thought it was interesting. New data. So a political scientist ended up evaluating, this guy, Eric Kaufman, recently analyzed survey data from the U.S. Census, Pew Research, and the UK's Office for National Statistics. And here's what he found. So after tripling between 2020 and 2023, the percentage of young adults identifying as transgender dropped from roughly 1.9% to 1.6% in 2024, which actually represents hundreds of thousands of young people. And I mean, for me, I actually don't care what you do. If you're trans and this makes you happy, God bless you. It's your life. It's your body. The crossover for me is when it impacts other people, when your choices keep people like yourself off of the podium and create an unfair and unsafe environment. But then the second part of this issue that I've personally been focused on tackling is the chemical castration of our kids. And the concern is, like, what if they regret it? So take a look at this video of Chloe Cole, who had a double mastectomy and now regrets it.
At 15 years old, I underwent my first and only surgery. It was a radical double mastectomy to permanently remove my breasts. The regret was almost immediate. And every time I looked down at my chest, I felt like a Frankenstein's monster. I would never even have the choice of nursing my own children as an adult. This broke me. I couldn't forgive myself for a very long time.
Who lets a 15-year-old make that decision? How has that become mainstream?
Man, I have heard Chloe's story several times throughout the year. She's become a dear friend of mine.
Aww.
And every time I hear it again, I have to hear her describe herself as a Frankenstein being, to now be a mom myself who is breastfeeding my daughter. I can't even imagine having that maternal feeling, which Chloe has told me that she has. Like, I want to be a mom one day, but to know you can't breastfeed your own child. I mean, like, these are horrific, sinister crimes against humanity that are being committed on young, vulnerable children by people that we are supposed to be trusting with our lives. I mean, people who call themselves healthcare professionals, healthcare providers. No, in this case, I think a better word or a better phrase to describe these healthcare providers is unregulated child butchers is what they are. That's what I think of when I hear people like Chloe Cole, her story, people like Prisha Mosley, another detransitioner out of North Carolina, who similarly had both of her breasts removed. Well, by the grace of God and a total miracle, she detransitioned, never knowing what the years of testosterone and hormones would do to her body and her fertility. By the grace of God, she was able to get pregnant.
That's
and have
incredible.
this beautiful baby boy, but the baby boy comes out. Of course, she can't breastfeed because her breasts have been removed. But she told me that the doctors, when they removed her breasts, they didn't remove her mammary glands. And so she said her body was still producing milk, but it had nowhere to excrete. I mean,
gosh.
think about that.
Gosh. Okay.
Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the most horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, it breaks my heart that this is happening. And again, that you, in terms of elected representation and in terms of how this is portrayed in mainstream media, you have an entire political party who supports this.
I know.
And it is horrific.
You know that moment when the air turns crisp and suddenly comfort becomes the best gift of all? Well, that's the vibe that I get from Quince. Their pieces just feel right. They're effortless, elevated, they're made to last. They've got it all. They're $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters I live in. They've got denim that never goes out of style, silk tops and skirts that pull everything together, down outerwear that's built for the season. Honestly, Quince is perfect for gifting or just upgrading your own wardrobe. And I've got to say, the Italian wool coats are at the top of my list. The cut feels designer, the quality rivals high-end brands, but without the markup. And here's why. Because Quince works directly with ethical, top-tiered factories. So you're getting incredible craftsmanship at about half the price of similar brands. So step into the holiday season with layers made to feel good, look good, polished, and last from Quince. Perfect for gifting or keeping for yourself. Just go to quince.com/Jillian for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/Jillian to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Jillian. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. So if you're intimidated about designing a website, don't worry. Shopify's got you covered from the get-go with beautiful, ready-to-go templates to match your brand style. And if you need a hand, you can get help with everyday tasks like enhancing product images, writing product descriptions, generating discount codes. Shopify's AI tools are created for commerce. And if people haven't heard about your brand, Shopify helps you find your customers with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. And if you get stuck, Shopify is always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. They have you 365-degree covered. So turn those dreams into and give them the best shot at success with Shopify. So sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Jillian. Just go to shopify.com/Jillian. That's shopify.com/Jillian. To be clear, if Chloe was an adult, not a 15-year-old, and had therapy, had evaluated, and had decided this is the right decision for me. When I look in the mirror, I don't feel like a Frankenstein. I feel like I am my true self. Honestly, would you care? Would you be like,
well, honestly, you described it as the viewpoint that most Americans have. So long as it's legal, so long as it's of someone who's of consenting age, and so long as it doesn't cost me my taxpayer dollars, like that's the beauty of living in America. That's why so many people want to come into this country, is because it's a free country. You can do that if you want. I can call you stupid for it, but you can do it. And that's the beauty of living in America. So no, if you want to, what someone does behind closed doors, what they do to their body, again, so long as it's legal, they're of consenting age, and it doesn't cost me my money, my hard-earned taxpayer dollars, then by all means, feel free. And I think that's the position that most Americans, regardless of political party, hold.
I couldn't agree with you more. All right, I'm going to transition again on you here. So coincidentally, the week after the No King protests, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals just ruled that the federal government, specifically under Trump, of course, can deploy the National Guard to Portland. So this is a big win for the administration because it has sweeping ramifications. So, of course, the city of Portland and the state of Oregon are going to appeal. But ultimately, if the Ninth Circuit and possibly the Supreme Court sides with Trump, it would dramatically expand presidential power. In the future, presidents would be able to override a governor's objection and send in troops for protests or riots. So when you heard the Ninth Circuit say that the federal government can deploy the Guard in Portland, there's still, I think, one restraining order that's remaining at this time, and we're waiting to see how that resolves. But what is your first reaction to that?
Well, first, let me tell you about my experiences, multiple, that I have had in Portland. The first time I went to Portland, it was like a totally dystopian city. Buildings were boarded up in their downtown little area. I mean, they had, plywood on their windows, on their doors. You had people who, I would imagine these are people who are homeless, who were folded over in the most bizarre positions, like drool coming out of their mouths, but in what I think has been dubbed as like the Fenty fold, where they're in these incredible positions, but balancing somehow. It was so sad and heartbreaking to see. So that was my first experience in Portland. My second experience, just viewing all of this, my second experience in Portland, it's been a passion of mine, as you probably know, to get on college campuses, to engage with and mobilize the youth, Gen Z, people of my generation. And so I went to Portland State University to speak on their campus. There were 5 people arrested for trying to ultimately end my life. I was in campus. There was a building I was in. They had the entire Portland SWAT team have to come in and guard me, physically holding doors so protesters could not get in, after making it their intent very clear of what they wanted to do to me if they had the chance. I went into the bathroom in one of these campus buildings. There were protesters waiting in the bathroom to jump me once I went in there. Like, it was terrifying. Again, at the time, I was probably 23, maybe 24 years old. I'm a 23-year-old girl who is merely saying, like, I don't really want men in our sports. Men and women are different. Men can't become women and vice versa. But for that, like, I had people who wanted to end my life for it. So that's my experience with the city of Portland. So you asked me how I felt when I saw that the National Guard could be deployed in Portland. My first thought is I was thrilled by this. Secondly, it's just a reminder. No, I'm sad it has to happen. I was thrilled that this current administration was willing to do it. But sad because it is a reminder of what happens when leaders let chaos fester. And that is exactly what has happened in cities like Portland, in cities like Seattle, right? Yeah. Let's go back to 2020 and the riots that we saw there. Yes. Chaos has been festering. And so all that to say, if those elected leaders at the city, local, and state level, if they will not enforce law and order, the federal government eventually will. It's to be expected. It's one of the most basic duties of our government, actually, is to protect the people who live in this country. It's not authoritarianism. It's filling a vacuum of leadership. That's what I saw President Trump and his administration, this deployment as. So I'm going to show you real quick. Let's see what the senator of Portland has to say. I'm sorry, of Oregon has to say. This is Jeff Merkley's tweet. Guys, can you pull this up for me? He says, "Troops are not wanted or needed. Let's be clear, Trump's sole goal is to stoke violence. To justify tightening his authoritarian grip, the fight continues to protect our community." The mayor of Portland put out a press release. Okay, so here's what he says. He says, like other mayors across the country, let me toss this one up, guys.
I've not asked for and do not need federal intervention. We are proud that Portland police have successfully protected freedom of expression while addressing occasional violence and property destruction that takes place during protests at the ICE facility in Portland. We anticipate that the site and the half block surrounding it will continue to be a focus of protests, and Portland will continue to rise to the moment as a proud sanctuary city taking legal action and standing up for our community and our rights. And of course, the governor said very similar things like, hey, nothing to see here. It's all under control. And not only that, we're going to keep going. Well, let's take a look at some of the B-roll here that I've got for you in Portland. Tell me, how does this look? This is outside of that ICE facility. Can you pop that up for me, team? Okay. So you got all these guys out there. I mean, I've seen this 1,000 times, protesting ICE, throwing stuff at ICE, surrounding them, calling them Nazis and fascists and killers, calling for their lives. I mean, this is all going on, right? And what is behind it? So the number one thing behind it, apparently, is obviously they're very upset about immigration. That is the number one thing that they're going on about. And then it begets this unrest, and it becomes like, this complete vicious circle where then, of course, Trump sends in the Guard to protect federal law enforcement and federal buildings. And then they call him authoritarian and fascist, and we can't seem to get around it. Now, with that said, I want to pull up this clip from a Portland resident who doesn't really feel as though everything's under control. Let's see what a regular everyday resident has to say. This is from a neutral news station, News Nation.
Though there are some residents who support a military presence, who are tired of all the protesting, but who wish to remain anonymous.
I'm a liberal, and I'm having a problem with this. I want it to stop. The nasty side of things needs to be conveyed. It needs to be understood that there are nasty things going on here. It's not just, quote unquote, peaceful. It is not peaceful at night. It goes on every night, almost every night.
And do you think the Guard coming in is going to fix it?
If they can squelch it, yes. They need to squelch it.
Okay. Does it look peaceful to you? Was it peaceful for you? I mean, you've seen Chicago, you've seen New York. Kill yourself, they say to these guys. They surround them, they dox them. There are price tags on their head and the heads of their family. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, look, peaceful protest is a right.
Agreed.
Rioting is not. Violence is not. Doxing federal officials or federal agents is not. And the thing is, we can tell the difference. Listening to that woman in that video, I hate how she has to say the prerequisite of I'm a liberal, to give herself some credibility or to maybe prevent herself from being on the receiving end of some of that harm or some of that violence, or to prevent herself from being called a Nazi or Hitler or a fascist or whatever else they want to call people for merely saying that, look, there is a problem. Let's acknowledge the problem. Let's applaud those who are willing to do something about it, because at the end of the day, whether it's Chicago, whether it's Portland, whether it's Memphis, whether it's now Trump wanting to go into California and San Francisco, what he is advocating for, what he is working towards is safety for the American people. And they call that authoritarianism. It's not. He wants safety. And the thing is, that's what the American people voted for. It's what I voted for. I voted for secure borders. I voted for an end to the woke ideology being forced onto children, whether it is in the form of medical harm, whether it's in our sports, whatever it is. I voted for economic stability. These are things that I voted for, and so did 77 million other Americans. One of those being just being able to walk outside and feel safe in your own streets. I watched a video of a little boy in Memphis. He was this cutest little black boy, and he says it's a video directed to President Trump that maybe his mom, I believe, posted on TikTok, and it was, look, thank you, President Trump. I can play outside now without hearing gunshots. I'm so glad you deployed the Guard into Memphis. Those are the voices, people like this woman, the clip you just played, those are the voices that need to be heard. And so It's brave for these people to come out and say these things.
Right.
But it's what the American people voted for.
You know, it's interesting. You bring up the fact that the American people voted. So with regard to that authoritarian charge, just to be clear, fascists don't really come to power through fair, competitive elections that they can lose. So when you look at guys like Gaddafi, Mao Zedong, Lenin, Castro, the Ayatollah, Idi Amin, this happened through outright power seizes and coups. So there's really no direct comparison. But what's interesting is when I see these people in the streets, I actually don't think these are evil people. I think that they truly believe, I really do. I think they truly believe they are fighting the Gestapo. They believe it. They actually believe it. And then when I step back and I say, why do they believe this? Like, I understand completely if you have empathy towards people that want to come here for a better life. I totally get that. And there's a way to do that and to have that conversation and to pass common sense policy that facilitates good people coming into the country and contributing. I think look at the children of immigrants like Vivek Ramaswamy. Look at Winsome Earl Sears, who's a Jamaican immigrant now running for governor of Virginia. And we're going to get to all the great things that happen when people come here the right way. I want to get to that with you next. But who is putting this idea in their head? Take a look at the mayor of Chicago and what he recently said about this.
Well, are you all ready to defend this democracy? Are you ready to fight fascism? Are you prepared to destroy authoritarianism once and for all? Well, let the world hear you. No peace. Now listen, there are those in this country that have decided, after the behest of this president, to declare war on Chicago and American cities across this country.
They truly think that they are at war with the government. I've yet to see one case, by the way, of a Guard member or a Marine that's been sent in or ICE declaring war on American citizens. Now, are they enforcing immigration law? Yes. And if you get in their way, will you go to jail or be detained? Yes. That is not war on America. Leave them alone. Let them do the job that they were hired to do, which, again, I'll say it again, is to enforce federal law enacted by Congress. But I got one more thing to tell you. Okay, so we've all seen the videos, right, of Pritzker and Pelosi and Newsom. We must go to war. Oh, my God. We're in the middle of an existential threat. This dictator. I mean, we've seen it, right? And they're spitting and Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker. And it's like, and then it gets picked up by the CNNs and the MSNBCs, and people are like, oh my God, we're going to war. And now this one's crazy. Did you see this? Democrats are now crowdsourcing ICE surveillance. So House Democrats, led by, of course, a California Representative Robert Garcia, have launched a public ICE activity tracker. So this website lets citizens document immigration and customs enforcement operations nationwide. So, of course, they say, listen, we're here to flag civil rights violations. But Pam Bondi is basically saying this is a digital roadmap for ambushes. You're putting our federal officers' lives at risk. When I see this, I just think the Democrats are so far gone. I don't know. I want so badly to try to bridge the gap and understand. And I can see why people are so riled up and so upset, because when you're hearing this, and that's the only media diet that you're ingesting, you clearly fall for it.
Totally. It's not naive to think that the doxing of these agents could lead to their premature death. Like it's that sounds like really intense, and it sounds like, oh my gosh, like we live in the greatest country on earth. Like that wouldn't happen here.
Right.
It's exactly what happened to Charlie Kirk. Like, let's call it what it is. Like he was politically assassinated in cold blood because and by someone who disagreed with him politically and who felt morally justified in ending his life. They feel as if they have, like, they're morally superior. They will kill you and still believe that. Like
Right.
these people genuinely want to, I don't want to say these people because, again, that's pretty broad and I don't want to make a generalization here, but
It's 20-something% of the youth on the far left. That's what I think 20-something, that's what the YouGov poll actually just revealed. And that is a terrifying number.
That is a terrifying number.
I know.
20%, I mean, 1/5 of that younger generation on
the
that
far
side
left. Yeah.
are totally fine with violence in this way. That is a really scary thing,
I think
especially
it's-
for people
On
like
the far
you.
right, it's there, but it's smaller. It's smaller. So I don't want to act like, oh no, it's
course.
just but it is a larger number, and in my opinion, it is because of this insane rhetoric. So they think they're heroes. Like, how would you feel if I told you, Riley, listen, I've got a time machine in the garage. You and I can go back and kill Pol Pot. I don't know. If I wasn't so worried about the butterfly effect and us all not existing, I would probably take that guy out and think there'd be a better universe because of it somewhere. I mean, they're being told this and they believe it. I mean, you've seen the lies around Trump. He's a racist. He's a bigot. He hates gays. He's a sexist. You and I have had that fight and you can't even talk. They just shout you down. They don't listen. They don't do their own homework. And that's what's so overwhelmingly terrifying. So I thought we could do a little homework for people who are deeply alarmed about Trump's immigration policy. I want to take you, since you're young, you're young. I want to take you on a little walk through memory lane, just in case you weren't around for any of this or you weren't paying attention. Are you ready to go back in time with me? Okay.
Bring it on.
Here we go. Hang on a second. So we're going to start from the top here. All right. So here is Bill Clinton as president on his immigration policy, a hero of the left. Are you ready? Roll the clip, team.
Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Okay, now, he is just what a racist bigot, but here's
Fascist.
his fascist authoritarian. Like, guys, can I see what Hillary Clinton thinks about this whole thing?
Hi, Secretary Clinton. I was wondering what you think about securing the Mexican border with some of the illegal immigrants that come in. Just wondering.
Well, look, I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in. And I do think you have to control your borders.
Oh, it was her. I didn't know the wall was her idea. I didn't know I was around then. I didn't actually know that. But apparently it was Hillary's idea. And, but let's see, since Barack, of course, got elected and he was arguably the voice of reason, what did he think? Let's take a look at what Barack thought about all of this stuff.
If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century. And to those members of Congress who question my authority to make our immigration system work better, or question the wisdom of me acting where Congress has failed, I have one answer. Pass a bill. I want to work with both parties to pass a more permanent legislative solution. And the day I sign that bill into law, the actions I take will no longer be necessary. Meanwhile, don't let a disagreement over a single issue be a deal breaker on every issue. That's not how our democracy works. And Congress certainly shouldn't shut down our government again just because we disagree on this.
Don't do that.
Yeah, God forbid. Look, I mean, have any of these people have to ever answer to these things that they've said? I mean, I've never heard these videos.
It's gonna get
honestly.
better. You want it to get? I'm gonna make it better, and then I'm gonna let you.
Come on.
Not only was this was their idea. They were around before Trump, but Clinton was president way back when. The border wall, Hillary's great idea. Hold on now. Let's see who was the most prolific. Guys, can we pull up Bill Clinton, the chart on how many people he removed from the country? Okay, so here's what you got. You got 869,000 that are classified as, quote, removals. I'll explain that in a minute. And 11,716,000 that are classified as, quote, returns, for a grand total of just under 12.6 million people. Okay. Well, I guess Trump must be in like the 100 millions. What did Obama do? Let's take a look. He was affectionately called the Deporter-in-Chief. That was his nickname. Toss up that Obama chart for me. Let's see where he's at here with the deportation numbers. All right, we've got removals, 3 million. We've got returns, 2.186, almost 2.2 million, for a whopping total of 5,000,000, roughly 250,000 that he punted from our country. What did Trump do? How many? I want to see, how does he compare? Let's take a look. It's early, but I'm sure it's going to be crazy. What do we got? All right. So Trump has removed 1.2 million people, and he's returned 545,000 for a total of 1,758,000. Now, he has 3 years to go. I wonder if he could get anywhere near where Obama is. I mean, he's already done 5 years, and he's, significantly, he's paling in comparison to what these two pillars of the Democratic Party accomplished. So if people were not rioting then, and they weren't crying foul and attacking ICE and all of that, what the hell? By the way, you guys, your generation, the Zers, I get it. You guys were in school swimming. That's great. You were what, 10? I did, but my generation and all those angry boomers, they voted for these people. You voted for these guys. You were all in, and you still hold them on a pedestal, which is fine. But what you don't get to do is call Trump Hitler for the exact same thing. Yeah, what?
No. Well, it proves that this isn't necessarily a moral issue,
right?
Or even a humanitarian issue, like they like to say. It's a political one, right? If these same policies were praised when Democrats did them, why are they vilified when Trump does the exact same thing? Actually, in much fewer numbers. What was Bill Clinton's number? Did you say 12
Yeah, and I'm going to get into that one. Are you ready? 12.5 million. Okay, so listen to how he did it, because I'm sure, God willing, we actually got somebody who was in the middle or disagreed, which would be a special slice of heaven, so they could expose themselves to a differing perspective for just a moment. Due process. But they all got due process. No, they didn't. So let's go over that for a second here. The majority of people deported by Bill and Barack did not get due process. So most people assume that deportation means you get a judge, you get a lawyer, you get your day in court. But that's not true. And here's why. In 1996, a Republican-controlled Congress, and President Clinton came together in bipartisan legislation, called the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act. So it amended Title VIII of the U.S. Code to create what's called expedited removal. So here's what that means. This lets immigration officers deport anyone caught within 14 days of entry. By the way, how are you going to prove that you've been here for 15 days? Oh, can't prove. Okay, bye-bye. So, and within 100 miles of any border surrounding the entire United States. Okay. So literally, you kind of treat these people as though they were never in the country. It's called a, quote, legal fiction. And it allows the government to sidestep due process protections, no judge, no lawyer, no appeal. Instead, they're fast-track deportations, and some voluntarily returned. They were pressured to voluntarily return because it's like, okay, if you don't self-deport, we're going to charge you criminally, and you're not going to be able to come back in, so make a choice. Leave now, come back, do it the right way, or never come back again, and we will go through the process of deporting you, and you'll get your day in front of a judge. Now, I'm not saying this is right. I'm simply saying, where was the outrage? Where was the outrage?
Yeah, well, that's the question, isn't it? One thing I want to say about this whole immigration thing, and to put into perspective how Trump is not anti-immigrant. He's not. He's anti-illegal immigration. He is pro-immigration, and I'll tell you how my family has benefited from this. My husband is an immigrant. He came here from England back in 2018. He has lived in the U.S. now for, 7 years.
Okay.
He loves it here. I would describe him as, more American than truthfully 95% of Americans. Like I think especially in the current state that England is in, he has so much respect for and admiration and appreciation for the freedoms that we have here in this country. Okay. Anyways, he came over in 2018. He was an athlete at University of Kentucky as well. That's where we met. Obviously got married. We got married in 2022. We applied for his green card then, right? We knew this was the process. We weren't shocked. My immigration lawyer, or his immigration lawyer, told us it would take 6 months to hear back. Again, this is 2022. So President Biden was the president. We had gone nearly 2.5 years without hearing anything from USCIS or Immigration Services regarding his green card status. And so finally, I start reaching out, inquiring, what's the holdup? We get a letter. No agency, no department under President Biden could point us in the right direction. Until finally, we get a letter to our house in big, bold letters. It says, evidence requested or something to that effect. And I open it up and it says, sorry, we can't give you your green card because your medical record is not complete. And what was missing from my husband's medical record in the year 2025, because this was happening, all of this was going on in January prior to President Trump being inaugurated into office. Okay. So literally the last day that President Biden is in office, he's fighting my husband getting his green card because he didn't have the COVID vaccine.
No.
I waited a good 24 hours for President Trump. He's sworn in January 19th. I wait 24 hours before I pick up the phone. And I say, hey, did you know this mandate that I would deem illegal is still in place nationwide? He said, no, give me 2 hours.
Oh.
And literally within 2 hours, it wasn't a text or a call. I see a headline that says President Trump vacates nationwide mandate requiring legal immigrants to get the COVID vaccine. So all of that, again, just to say, President Trump made it easier for my immigrant husband to legally reside in the U.S. President Biden was attempting to kick my husband out, which, let me be very, very clear before I get any allegations that I was harboring an illegal. My husband was here legally the entire time.
Harboring an illegal.
Yeah, I don't even want those. I got a lot of that from the left. They said, look, Riley's married to an illegal immigrant. Tom Homan needs to go knocking on her door. No, he's been here legally the entire time. But President Biden and the Democratic Party made it harder, virtually impossible, for my immigrant husband to be in this country.
Wow.
So I hope that is some shed some light to those who are ignorant about, I think especially the legal immigration process, to how President Trump has worked in tandem with people like me, with people like my husband, families like ours, to make sure that they can reside here legally because he cares, because he understands this is the best country, and because he wants the best and the brightest, the smartest, the most successful to be in this country and contributing to our society.
So you're not anti-immigrant then, is what you're saying? No.
I know. Contrary to popular belief, right?
You know, I also harbor an immigrant from Haiti. And it took me 2.5 years to bring that little human over here the right way, which was kind of grueling, obviously, when there's a child now that you've been matched with and you have to wait it out. But with that said, legal immigration does amazing things. And I now want to look at the morality of all of this. So I wonder, okay, why in the world would the left want illegal immigration? It has a host of downsides. It creates shadow economies. It makes people vulnerable to being exploited. They're underpaid. They can be trafficked. They have no way of gaining any upward mobility because they're not here legally. So I wonder, what did Jasmine Crockett say about this? Let's take a quick look at her thought process on it.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
Okay, so hold on now. So is the correct me if I'm correct, the implication is we need a new class of slaves? Because that's what I took away for.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting slavery is wrong. Do you think we can establish that? But we need a new group of people because we're no longer allowed to enslave blacks. Is it me?
Yeah, no, that's called racism. I mean, specifically, first of all, what world is she living in? What world is she living in saying we're done picking cotton?
I don't know.
We're not going back to that. Who in the world has advocated for that? What world is she living in? But again, it goes back to the people, her audience, her constituency, her base, hearing that and somehow believing that we are living in a time where people like you and me are working to enslave African Americans. I mean, you, especially Jillian, talk about the selflessness that it takes and the patience and I mean, the financial resources, all the things that it takes to ultimately do exactly what you've done and take this beautiful God ordained and created child into your home. That's the exact opposite of slavery, really. So to Jasmine Crockett, I mean, what she's advocating for is slavery or using immigrants as these political pawns or cheap labor. I don't know, but it's not what I want.
But you want to see what her constituents want? Let's take a look. Guys, can you pop up this white liberal for me? Let's see what her constituents think, if they agree with her or not.
So I'm in my beautiful city, LA, and I have friends texting me all morning. My gardener didn't show up. My housekeeper didn't show up. My farmer's market was closed. Everyone's scared. Well, this is not going to just happen in LA. And you 1%ers that only voted for Trump because of money? Guess what? You're going to have to do your own dishes or clean your own house or mow your own lawn and that wonderful produce, the organic produce you get for your brunches? All gone. Yeah, you're going to actually have to do some work around your house. Yeah. These people are important.
Yeah, they're your slaves. This is your slave labor, and you're throwing them out. I want my maid. But what's interesting is that when they come in legally, they can run for governor. Like this woman right here. Let's see. Let me see. Winsome Earl Sears. She's nobody's maid. Do we really think this woman's a Marine, a small business owner, and she's the lieutenant governor of Virginia, now running for governor. So she's not picking fruit. I don't know. She's not your maid. And by the way, the people that seek a better life to come here don't have aspirations to stay your maid. Everybody on the left, when you do not allow people to come in illegally, you force them to find legal pathways. And when they do so, They start more small businesses. They pay more into the system than they take. Their kids do better in school. And we could have a million different examples of that. So this to me, when you try to hold the moral high ground, this is what it actually looks like in real time. They just keep saying the quiet part out loud. It's insane.
That's it. I will say, Winsome Sears, her story is incredible. How her family came over from Jamaica, how her mom had, I forget the exact amount, maybe like $17.
$1.75.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Her whole story is so incredible, but it's a testament to, number one, how fantastic our great nation is. Two, how immigrants, African Americans, can succeed and thrive in this nation. Okay. Winsome Sears, her whole story is a testament to those things. And I'm so excited for her race. I'm so amped up about it. Number one, because she's incredible.
Yep.
Number two, because her opponent is crazy. Yep. That puts men in women's sports, men in girls' bathrooms. I mean, won't condemn Jay Jones, the man who is running for attorney general against Jason Miyares, won't condemn his endorsement of political violence, hoping for death, wishing death. I mean, the things he said were horrific.
Disgusting.
As it pertains to little children even.
I know.
So very excited for Winsome Sears, her race. I think she's incredible.
I do too.
Virginians have an opportunity to really, do something fantastic, and I hope that they do.
Me too. And a few other things I want to say before we go. Sanctuary cities. Here's the irony of sanctuary cities. When Clinton and Obama were at it, there was no such thing as a sanctuary city. So basically, here's how this works, right? I did a little research on it. And, okay. When Clinton and Obama were running the show, another reason immigration enforcement wasn't a circus is because local cops cooperated with ICE. Bananas, I know. Jails handed over offenders and criminals got shipped out efficiently. Like, it's just mind-blowing that this could happen. There were no hashtags. There were no performative TikTok sob stories. Now, though, in sanctuary cities, it basically forces ICE into the streets to conduct raids. And if you are worried about collaterals, which, again, I would argue, let's find a path to citizenship for good people who came here the wrong way. There's a way to figure this out if they can contribute to society. But instead, they're getting swept up in these ICE raids. If that's really what you're worried about, then your city should cooperate with ICE because it doesn't force them into the streets to get the bad guys. But you don't really care about that. You care about rage. You care about a riot. You care about making everybody think that Trump is Hitlerian because you don't want anybody to look at the state of your state. And coming from California, I can tell you, it isn't good. He hasn't done anything good. Crime is up. Homelessness is up. Everybody's house is on fire. Nobody's been able to rebuild. What has this man accomplished? Nothing good. So instead, it's like, we must go get Trump. I am the face of the opposition. I'm going to pull this whole sanctuary city thing so I can seem like I'm a good guy, even though what really happens is more collaterals, immigrants who are not criminals get swept up because of it. And there's no acknowledging that. But you see any of this in Tennessee where you live? Any of it?
Matt, I will say I'm blessed to live where I live. I live in a very conservative part of Tennessee, but we have a horrific mayor in downtown Nashville, our state's capital,
Wow.
Freddie O'Connell, who has said the same thing. It's like a Democrat talking point, like, citizens do not work with ICE, talking to other state officials, do not collaborate with ICE, talking to our police department, do not work in collaboration with ICE. I mean, asking whole police departments, people whose job it is, again, to enforce the law, to actively not enforce federal law and work with those who are attempting to enforce it. I mean, that's criminal. How is that literally not treason? I don't know.
I don't either. I actually don't
fortunate to be where I am, but Nashville itself and Memphis, of course. I mean, we've had the problems in Tennessee for sure.
The last thing I would ask of people, I don't know if you have friends on the left still that will still speak to you. There are a few that still speak to me, and I try hard to digest some left-wing media because I really do want to understand what is alarming people and see if I can communicate some truths they may not be aware of. The children in zip ties thing, ICE is putting kids in zip ties. None of this is true. Pritzker said it. And it came from a TikTok parody video, which I have. Let's see if the guys can find it and throw up while we're talking. Yeah, take a look. So this circulated, okay? And Pritzker said that they're putting children. This is fake. This is not real. Take 5 minutes to do your homework before getting alarmed. They're deporting American citizens of color. No, they're not. The only American citizens that have left this country since Trump took office in January were children that are still American citizens who left to keep their family together because their parents were here illegally and can come back any time. What do you say to people that believe this kind of, they're disappearing people of color, they're deporting American citizens who are black and brown, they're putting children in zip ties? What do you say when you hear this madness? It's like, please, God, go to Google?
Yeah. Well, I think number one, if these people who are outraged by this weren't outraged by what was the number? 350,000 missing children who crossed the border under the previous administration.
Yep.
If they stayed totally silent during that, don't tell me you care about kids then, because that's not the basis of your argument. I would say the basis of your argument is that you hate Trump, you hate his administration, you hate his cabinet, you hate ICE officers and agents. Okay, so like that number one is what I would say to those who are selectively outraged by this. Of course, I'm of the mind that any atrocity committed on children is something to be, horrified by. But as you said, that's not happening.
Nope.
So the concern number one is, where is this information coming from? Was this intentional? Who is behind it? I think there's a greater concern too with AI, especially.
Yeah.
There have been
there
have been some AI videos and clips that have been put out and have circulated social media that are really, really believable. And that's coming from me. Forget my grandma, right? My grandma's like watching these videos. I was with her today, actually, this morning, and she's watching this video of an AI little talking baby, and she's asking me if it's real. I'm like, Gammy, no, that's not real. But all that to say, I think AI is of grave concern.
Yeah.
It is a pretty terrifying thought, knowing that these should be factors that we should be considering, that we should be concerned about. I think going into 2026, going into 2028, because ultimately that's what helps shift the perspective and the minds of voters, people like you and me, and even people on the other side, is what is being spread online, which is why I'm grateful for outlets like X, where there are community notes. You can, in real time, fact check things. And I've seen it be quicker, honestly, than, mainstream media. So grateful for outlets like X and people like Elon Musk, who are champions for free speech. But of course, it's still very much a concern of mine. I fall for these things sometimes.
I do too. And I have to literally, because it seems so outrageous. I'm like, hold on a second. Give me 5 minutes before I react to this, and let me try to get to the bottom of it. And sometimes you have to cross-check multiple sources. It's insane.
Yeah. It takes effort. A lot of people are not willing to put in effort, especially if it's going to debunk what they want to believe.
I know. But why in the name of God do you want to be outraged? Why do you want to lose faith in your fellow Americans? Why do you want to believe that your country is being run by a monster? You can dislike Trump. You can dislike things that he's doing. Just make sure they're real. That's all I ask. If you're going to be outraged about something, do us all a favor, in particular yourself, and make sure it's real. Go
well, it's the same thing
way.
like you said with Charlie Kirk.
Yep.
Where people called him a racist and a misogynist and all of these awful names, but you asked them to produce a clip or any sort of evidence where Charlie has made a racial comment, and they can't do it. So therefore, what do? They just call you a racist. You're defending a racist, but all in the meantime, never producing evidence. But I wonder if they realize that. I wonder if deep down, they know it. That Charlie's whole business model, his whole mantra was prove me wrong.
Yeah.
They couldn't do it. And I think there was, clearly one person in particular, who knows who else was working in collaboration with the assassinator or the assassin, but he couldn't prove him wrong. So what does he do? He kills him, which is a really sad thought.
It's interesting. I actually did get into a few of those conversations with people I know. And one sent me the clip, right, of Charlie. It says in this thing in the Bible, stone gays. And I go, well, okay. I mean, I've seen him engage with gay people quite often. I haven't seen anything like that. In particular, I've seen him engage with Dave Rubin and talk about how he celebrates his marriage, even though it's against his religion. He would never take away the rights that go along with his marriage, ever. I've seen all of this. He had me on stage. He invited me to speak at Turning Point. I'm a moderate gay person. Like, we're the mixed race family. I've never seen, but let me do a little homework into it first. And sure enough, it turns out that it was taken totally out of context. And he was talking about how if you cherry pick Bible verses, you can create any argument you want. And it literally, when I showed that to the individual who sent it to me, I got 50 more videos that I had to subsequently debunk. And you know where we ended up? Let's agree to disagree. I'm like, I'm showing you that millions of people are not racists, are not bigots, are not transphobes, that they like this guy for the following reasons. If you want to be outraged because you believe in DEI and he did it, be outraged. Then that's fair. Okay, if you want to be outraged because you believe in gender-affirming care for kids and he didn't, then okay, then you're allowed to be mad. But don't come to me with things that are complete and total fabrications. That, A, makes you look like an idiot, I'll be honest, and B, gets us absolutely nowhere as a society. So I would simply ask people, as we're heading out on this one, like, spend 5 minutes on both sides. Spend 5 minutes and make sure it's true. There was a picture of, I'm sure you've seen this, of Pete Buttigieg supposedly breastfeeding his child with like a fake. It's fake. It's a fake video or fake clip. Take a minute before you give in to outrage and just do a little homework. So at least we're all functioning with the same truths. I think that will go a long way. Riley, final thoughts on everything going on and everything we talked about.
Goodness gracious. I think for all of it, regardless of the topic, whether it's the government shutdown, whether it's the trans issue we briefly discussed, whether it's border security, whether it's ICE officers, I think my final thoughts here is we need to fix the system. We need to enforce it. We need to lead with compassion, as you just said, but grounded always in truth. What is true? What is objective? What cannot, or I guess what is not object or subject to change or anything like that. Second point, I think, is that America is not anti-immigrant. President Trump is not anti-immigrant. Whether it's, again, immigration or the border, and even talking about these sanctuary cities, we're anti-lawlessness is what I'll speak for myself. I shouldn't say we. I feel pretty confident. Yeah, right. I think that's the majority of American people. So those are my kind of final thoughts. Jillian, I'm just grateful for you. You are one of the very few, and I say this as someone who also tries to listen to both sides, get the full scope here. You're one of the very few who does it and does it well. You base your arguments, your talking points, how you interact with other people on that. And so for that, I am so grateful. I think you're a fantastic role model for me to look up to. So just very grateful for you.
Well, that's an honor because you are incredibly accomplished and talented and well-spoken and lovely. And I'm grateful that my kids have you to look up to.
Aww.
Where can everybody get more? Tell them everything, or they can follow you, listen to Gains for Girls. Tell them everything.
Yes. Well, I've got a show with Outkick. You can find that at youtube.com/Outkick. Gains for Girls. Fantastic stuff going on over there. You can follow me on X. It's Riley_Gains_ on Instagram, Riley G. Barker. It's funny how like each platform is kind of tailored to different things. Instagram is much more personal, showing parts of my family and the behind the scenes side of things. X is much more political and the fiery takes and the commentary on everything. But you can find me on those platforms.
I want to take you out with my clip of the week. This is a new thing I'm doing. I think you're going to get a kick out of it. Not to make fun of what's going on in the streets, but if we don't laugh, we'll cry. I mean, after all, comedy is tragedy plus time. Take a look.
They see me rolling, they hate it, patrolling and trying to catch me riding dirty, trying to catch me riding dirty, trying to catch me riding dirty, trying to catch me riding dirty.
Looks like peaceful to me. I don't see this guy getting roughed up by ICE. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We will talk to you next time.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.